Zara adjusted the intricate lace of her designer gown, her reflection a picture of serene beauty. Outside the grand ballroom of the Safari Park Hotel in Nairobi, hundreds of guests mingled, unaware of the dynamite she had carefully planted. She wasn't just getting married to David, a successful, gentle man who adored her. She was orchestrating a performance, the grand finale of her chaotic dating life. Her bowl was unconventional, not a happy marriage, but a spectacular, undeniable moment of self-vindication. She had sent personalized, strikingly formal invitations to all three of her most significant ex-boyfriends. David, her fiancé, had just smiled and called her eccentric, unaware of the deeper motive. The invitation, printed on thick, embossed cardstock, read, "Witness the culmination of everything you taught me." Julian, the first ex, a slick corporate lawyer who ghosted her for a European socialite, had RSVP'd immediately. Ken, the passionate but chronically unfaithful artist who had inspired her most melancholic poems, had sent back a single cryptic black rose. And Mwamyi, the steady childhood love who had broken her trust in the most intimate way, was the final, crucial piece. The silence from him was the loudest sound in the vast, flower-laden hall. Zara smiled, a sharp, predatory look flashing in her eyes. The stage was set, and the audience was about to arrive. The Kenyan sun beat down on the perfectly manicured lawns, the vibrant Katenge fabrics of the guests a beautiful blur of color. Zara waited in a quiet side room, sipping sparkling juice, when her maid of honor, Lena, burst in. "They're here, Zara, both of them, looking like they're ready for a corporate takeover, not a wedding." Julian arrived first, wearing an immaculate bespoke suit that screamed wealth and carrying a conspicuously large, silver-wrapped gift. He cornered David near the artisanal coffee bar, his voice a low, condescending rumble about market corrections and property values. He was clearly attempting to make David feel inadequate, asserting his status as the original successful man in Zara's life. Meanwhile, Ken sauntered in wearing a bohemian linen shirt, his eyes darting around the venue like a hawk, looking for a vulnerable spot to land a dramatic scene. He didn't bring a gift. He brought a portfolio of his latest sketches. He was subtly showing them off, making sure guests overheard him dramatically describing his latest muse, hoping to imply that Zara's happiness was merely a fleeting, uninspired chapter. Lena, ever watchful, reported, "Julian is acting like he's scouting investment opportunities, and Ken is performing an interpretive dance with his eyebrows." Zara just smiled, smoothing her gloves. "Let them preen, Lena. Every feather counts toward the final plumage." The initial tension was exactly what she had planned, a necessary prelude to the storm. Just as the master of ceremonies announced the imminent arrival of the bride, a commotion near the entrance drew every eye. Mwangi, handsome and humbled, strode in late. Unlike the polished arrogance of Julian or the artistic flamboyance of Ken, Mwangi carried the weight of genuine regret. He wore a simple, well-tailored gray suit and looked directly at Zara's pride adore, a silent apology in his posture. His arrival was the final piece of the puzzle, completing the trio of men who had, in different ways, taught Zara that her heart was disposable. David, the groom, stood at the altar, oblivious to the history congregating in the back rows. David was the antithesis of the exes, stable, honest, and utterly without ego. He had insisted Zara invite them, believing in her strength and his own security. "If they hurt you, let them see you thrive," he told her. This generosity, however, was part of Zara's calculation. She needed David's good-natured confidence for her plan to succeed.
He was the immaculate, unassailable backdrop against which the drama would unfold. The three men were now seated, Julian and Ken exchanging dismissive, territorial glances, while Mwangi sat alone, eyes fixed on his hands. They each believed they held a unique significance in Zara's history, and they were all absolutely correct. Their presence was not a sign of reconciliation. It was an act of reckoning. The Pachelbel's canon began, and Zara, radiant, made her entrance. Her walk was slow, deliberate, a triumphant march, not a nervous stagger. As she reached the altar, she made sure to lock eyes with each of the three EXES, acknowledging their presence, confirming their participation in her spectacle. Julian shifted uncomfortably, realizing his expensive suit and arrogant air couldn't diminish her glow. Ken felt a sudden, familiar surge of possessiveness, wondering if he could still paint the fire back into her gaze. Mwangi simply nodded, a silent admission of defeat. The vows were exchanged with genuine warmth and sincerity from David, but Zara's voice, though clear, carried an underlying, almost theatrical resonance. When the officiating pastor reached the crucial, climactic moment, "If anyone here knows of any reason why these two should not be legally joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." A profound silence fell. Julian cleared his throat. Ken straightened his spine, and Mwangi looked up, ready to play his assigned role. Then, David, the groom, suddenly took a step forward, smiling broadly at the congregation. "Before anyone speaks," he announced, his voice carrying over the crowd, "my wife-to-be has a slight, unconventional adjustment to our wedding contract." He handed Zara a microphone. Zara took the microphone, her eyes still sparkling with the unspoken challenge. Julian, deciding this was his moment to expose David's business flaws and prove himself the superior match, stood up with a confident, forced smile. "I must interrupt, Reverend," he declared, his voice booming. "David's latest venture is highly leveraged, and his liquidity is—" Before Julian could finish his sentence, a waiter, seemingly by accident, tripped and drenched Julian in a pitcher of crimson punch. The crowd gasped. The financier was sputtering, covered in a sticky red mess. Simultaneously, Ken, seizing the resulting chaos as an opportunity for romantic melodrama, rushed toward the aisle, clutching his sketches. "Zara, my muse, our love is art. Don't commit this corporate travesty," he cried out, only to be intercepted by two seemingly ordinary security guards in tasteful dark suits, who smoothly but firmly escorted him, still shouting about sacrificed inspiration, toward a side exit. Mwangi remained seated, watching the clumsy attempts at sabotage fail. This was not the chaotic, embarrassing mess they had planned. It was too efficient, too controlled. He finally understood. This entire sequence had been anticipated. David, stepping closer to Zara, put his arm around her. The crowd was silent again, waiting for Zara's next move. With Julian soaking and Ken detained, Zara gave David a quick, affectionate smile, a gesture the EXES had never deserved. She addressed the microphone, her voice firm and clear. "Thank you all for being here, especially my three former significant others." She paused, letting the statement land. "Julian, Ken, Mwangi. I invited you not to witness my happiness, but to participate in its final step. You see," she continued, "my fiancé David is not just a successful businessman. He is also the founder of the Phoenix Initiative, a national nonprofit dedicated to victims of financial deceit, emotional manipulation, and intimate betrayal." The crowd murmured excitedly. I am not marrying David for his money or his kindness, though I am lucky to have both. I am marrying him because his foundation helps people rebuild after meeting men like you." Mwangi's face drained of color as he grasped the depth of her plan. The shock wasn't what they did to her, it was what she had them do. Serve as live, public proof of the pain that David's charity was designed to heal. The silver-wrapped gift Julian brought, David now picked it up. "This, which Julian gave, will be the first donation to the fund," he announced, "dedicated to all the women he ghosted." Zara stepped forward, her gaze now softening as she looked at David, realizing the sincere love that had grown from her calculated start. "Mwangi, your presence, while painful, is necessary." She turned to the crowd. "A year ago, I started rebuilding my life, applying the lessons these three men taught me: the necessity of financial independence, the power of self-respect, and the absolute requirement of trust." She revealed that the grand wedding and the EXES invitations were the culmination of a challenge David had given her: to face her past on the largest platform possible and turn it into a source of public strength. Zara had spent the last 9 months blogging anonymously about her recovery, gaining thousands of followers, and crucially raising seed capital for David's foundation through anonymous online fundraisers. The wedding was the official launch of the public-facing Survivors Fund. Mwangi finally spoke, standing up slowly. "Zara, I never thought you'd use your hurt this way. It's brilliant." Zara cut him off. "It's not for me, Mwangi. It's for the others. My goal was never revenge. My goal was to make sure that the collective pain you three caused wasn't wasted, but instead became the bedrock of something bigger than all of us." The crowd began to applaud, a slow build of respect for her audacity. The cheers for Zara's boldness were deafening, the celebratory mood having shifted from simple marriage to a shared, empowering moment. The wedding, far from being ruined, became the most talked about, scandalous, and wildly successful charity launch of the year. Julian, having changed into a spare safari suit from his car, was cornered by David's business associates, who suddenly found his reputation slightly toxic. Ken was released with a stern warning, but his artistic statement earned him an overnight viral status as the Wedding Crasher Wino, a label that effectively killed his serious artistic credibility. Mwangi, however, did not leave. He approached David and Zara after the ceremony, a check in his hand. "This is not an apology," he said, handing David a substantial sum. "It's a tribute to Zara's strength. I hope the Phoenix Initiative soars." Zara's goal was achieved. Not only did she secure a loving partner in David, who understood her need for dramatic closure, but she also successfully used the negative energy of her past relationships to fuel a powerful, positive outcome. The money raised that day dwarfed the cost of the entire lavish event. She achieved exactly what the title promised, using her ex's worst intentions to create a shocking, scandalous foundation for her new life. As she and David stepped into their vintage Land Rover for the honeymoon, Zara turned back to the crowd and blew a kiss. The performance was over, and the triumphant marriage had just begun.